Today we're going to talk about Objective 5, demonstrate an understanding of quadratic and other nonlinear functions. How does the graph of y equals negative 3/4 x squared differ from the graph of y equals 4/3 x squared? And we're given four answer choices here, and basically we can use our calculator to solve this problem. Let's put the first choice in y1, and remember when you're using fractions in the calculator, use parentheses. Then the second equation, 4/3 x squared in y2. Now, when we graph, we want to use Zoom 6 to make sure we're in the standard viewing screen. Don't just simply hit graph. And when we put these in the first time, they'll come up in order. So the graph of the y1 will come up first, and then after that the graph of y2 will come up. But after you've already graphed it, if you go to another screen and you graph again, then they'll come up together. So just be careful with what you're doing there. So pay attention once you hit graph the first time. So Zoom 6 for our standard viewing screen. There's the first graph. There's the second graph. So it looks like that my first graph opens to the bottom and it's a little wider than my second graph. So let's look at my answer choices here. If the graph of y equals negative 3/4 x squared opens downward, that's true, and is wider than the graph of y equals 4/3 x squared. That's exactly what happened. So if we look at these other answer choices just to see why they're wrong, G says the graph of y equals negative 3/4 x squared opens upward. That's not true. H says the graph of y equals negative 3/4 x squared opens upward. That's not true. And this one says that it opens downward and is narrower. Well, it does open downward, but it's not narrower. The answer is F. Okay, let's look at number 7. The graph of a function of the form y equals ax squared plus c is shown below. So again, we have a power of 2, so it's a quadratic. We have this parabola here, and basically this is just, remember the parent quadratic is y equals x squared, and so the number a in front of x squared, if it's not 1, it will make the graph either skinnier or wider depending on if it's a fraction or if it's a number greater than 1. And then this number c is just like the y-intercept from y equals mx plus b, where this is the y-intercept, shows where the graph crosses the y-axis. Same here. It's going to show where the graph crosses the y-axis. So let's look at what we have going on. It says if the graph is translated only up or down, so we're going up or down, they didn't tell us, and includes the ordered pair 6, 7, which of the following equations best represents the resulting graph? Well, if it includes the point 6, 7, that's this point right here. So if it's going to include this point, that should tell you that the parabola needs to slide down to be able to do that. And if I travel straight up this line right here to where I see where it's on the graph, the parabola touches right here. So in order to get this point to touch here, it has to slide down 1, 2, 3, 4 units. So I need to go down go down a minus 4 units. So if that's the case, let's look at our answer choices, what we have. I can automatically cancel out A and C. The reason is because I've got a negative in front of my x squared. And when you have a negative in front of the x squared, that means your parabola opens downward. And obviously my parabola opens upward. That's why I can cancel those two choices out. So now, looks like our 1/3 x squared is good here, and our 1/3 x squared is good here. So the difference is going to be here. Is it a +1 for my y-intercept or a -5 for my y-intercept? Well, my y-intercept right now is -1. But when I go down 4 units, 1, 2, 3, 4, that puts me at -5. So the answer must be D. Another method for doing this would be simply take each one of these answer choices, one by one, and put them in your y equals and see which one matches. For instance, I'll go ahead and put in the one that worked, but you would go through each choice, putting them in, and see which one matches the graph given. And remember to graph using Zoom 6. That takes you to the standard viewing screen, which is basically what we have here, the standard viewing screen. Now what I've done is I've graphed this one, and you should be able to see that from this point it went down the 4 units, giving you this graph right here. If we looked at, you look at these two, A and C. So by plugging A and C in, I'll just plug one of those in to show you how that would have looked. Choice A opens downward, so obviously that's not going to be one of my choices because I didn't change the way it opened. It just was going to slide down 4 units.